Welcome to a unique city located in the region that once hosted a famous battlefield from Julius Caesar's Gallic Wars. Follow us and discover the story of Belgium's first city, which emerged after the ambitious Roman conquest of Gaul, led by Caesar, who was then still proconsul. The story begins in the year 54 BC, when none other than Caesar himself writes about an ambush by the man now proudly displayed on this pillar in the city center, the Eburones King Ambiorix. Through a ruse, he managed to lure the legions of the Roman commanders Cotta and Titurius into a trap near a Gallic settlement called Atuatuca, in which only a few of the at least 6,000 Roman soldiers survived. When Caesar heard of this, he struck back mercilessly. The Eburones were slaughtered, and Ambiorix was chased across the Rhine. Less than 2 years later, with the surrender of another Gallic king, v.Chr, all of Gaul would fall into Roman hands. Since we know Ambiorix's story verbatim from Caesar's own minutes, it is a beautiful illustration of the fact that history is always written by the victors. Caesar returned to Rome after his victory, but what he could never have imagined is that Ambiorix, precisely because of his notes, would become one of the most famous Belgians in history. And when the Romans decided to create a city here in 10 BC, located on the important trade route between Cologne and Boulogne-sur-Mer, they reused the name of Ambiorix settlement. Atuatuca Tungrorum was born. However, the Gallic Atuatuca of Ambiorix was probably not located on the site of the present city. The few archaeological traces from the late Iron Age found here among the many Roman remains have so far provided no evidence of an actual Eburones settlement. The new Roman city grew rapidly, and few shoppers here on this modern shopping street would suspect they are walking along one of the city's main streets in Roman times, which was called the Decumanus Maximus. This was the main street in a Roman city that ran east-west. Numerous foundations and road surfaces have been excavated beneath these streets, showing, among other things, that some of the current roads still follow the old Roman street plan. But a keen eye will have already found traces of the Romans upon entering the city, as remnants of their monumental city wall are still visible in many places. As early as 70 AD, when large parts of the city were burned down during the Batavian Revolt, it was clear that the region remained dangerous, and at the end of the 2nd century, a 4.5-kilometer long, 6-meter-high city wall was built around the city. This 3D reconstruction of the imposing walls and towers immediately provides a sense of security. As a Batavian, you couldn't just walk in here anymore. In the Teseum beneath the Basilica of Our Lady, you'll feel even closer to Roman times, because next to remains of a later Roman city wall from the 4th century, you can also find beautifully preserved parts of a Roman villa with original wall paintings. But perhaps even more special is this dull-looking piece of wall that you quickly walk past if you don't know what you're looking at. Experts immediately see the difference in color between the upper and lower layers of these walls, and know that the lower structure is of Roman construction. You are now standing here at the walls of the oldest known Christian church in the Low Countries, a Roman basilica from the 4th century, and it is possible that the legendary Bishop Servatius was active here before the episcopal see moved to Maastricht. In the Middle Ages, the current church was built on these foundations. So this simple piece of wall reminds us in the most literal way that we are building on the foundation laid before us by our ancestors. The Roman prosperity of that time is also reflected in the remains of this hypocaust, an underfloor heating system that distributed heat from a boiler room under the floor. Imagine that you, as a wealthy Roman citizen, came here to take a heated bath and happened to encounter Emperor Julian in the bathhouse, who was staying here in the spring of the year 358. For the necessary water, we have to look just outside the city, because on the site of this now barren winter-covered forest lies an artificial ridge where an aqueduct once supplied the city with fresh water. This aqueduct marks how wealthy and important the city had become. We are walking around in one of the most prominent places in the north of the Roman Empire in the 2nd century AD. This importance is underscored by the most impressive Roman building on the highest part of the city, a temple complex that towered high above the city walls and was visible from far and wide. The majestic complex was likely completed before the year 100 AD, and because various remains of the Roman god Jupiter have been found in the area, it is likely the temple was dedicated to the patron saint of the Roman Empire. To further emphasize the city's highest point, a raised terrace was constructed on which the cella, the holiest place in the temple complex, was built so that it could be seen from afar. The completion of the temple symbolizes that, just over 100 years after the city was founded, Atuatuca Tungrorum had grown to a civil, administrative, and religious center in the region. In the 2nd century AD, Atuatuca Tungrorum, the largest Roman city in the Low Countries, experienced its golden age, as did the Roman Empire itself, which would reach its greatest size in 117 AD under Emperor Trajan, with a population of 60 to 80 million people, which was about 1/5 of the world's population at the time. But not much later, around 270 AD, Roman glory began to come to an end when Germanic tribes such as the Franks invaded the empire. This was most visible here when parts of the city were burned down, leading to the shortening of the city walls in the 4th century, making the smaller city center more defensible. So when Julian visited the city here, the Roman glory years were already a distant past. But while the days of the Roman Empire were numbered, this city, despite a decline in the early Middle Ages, would ultimately stand the test of time. In the 11th century, the city experienced an economic revival, and although it frequently found itself at the center of various conflicts, it continued to reinvent itself, as tenacious as a goal. Ambiorix and his tribe once were the reason this city, which is now among the oldest in Europe, was given its name. Its city walls and archaeological remains conceal a past that remains ever present. Walking through Tongeren today, you are not walking through history. But on top of it,